am not going back. I have too much to do. I am not going back.
What's up, guys? Ryan and Gaz here. We're breaking down another episode of Preacher. This is Season 3, Episode 7. It's called Hitler.
Hey, but before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button where we'll be doing more of these videos, including breakdowns of Castle Rock with Ryan and Greg.
Different Ryan, not me. But anyways, guys, there are spoilers ahead. Obviously, it's a breakdown, so go watch the episode and come right back here. All right, guys, so it took 7 episodes, but we finally have the return of Hitler.
Yeah, David Hilter, if you will.
Yeah, sorry, not Hitler,
Yeah.
his David Hilter, who works at a knockoff Subway, Maxi Grinders.
Right, and apparently is quite good at it. He's a sandwich artist, if you will.
Well, we already knew he was an artist, so it makes sense that he makes a really good sandwich, I guess. But we soon learned that he's still horrible old Hitler, and hell never really changed him.
No, he's still the same old guy inside, and we see him planning and plotting just like he would have in the past.
Which was funny because remember last season, a lot of the story was made to make you seem that like he did have a kind of change of heart, and he was really remorseful for what he did. Obviously, that's not the case.
No, I think this episode kind of brought out the inner Hitler inside of him, if you will.
Right.
Sondern das mit Sagen, Radical aus Rotdot.
This entire cold open kind of reminded me, this is a little bit far-fetched, but it reminded me of Better Call Saul when they have the flash forward and Saul's working in the Cinnabon in the mall. It was just very reminiscent of one of the characters kind of having a different job than what we thought they were doing.
Right.
So David Hilter's work at Maxi Grinders gets interrupted quickly by the Saint of Killers and Eugene.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that Hitler knew it was a matter of time before someone would come for him, and he seemed to be quite familiar with the Saint of Killers.
Totally.
It almost was like the Saint of Killers is such a famous figure in hell that just seeing him, he knew exactly that Satan was after him.
And we also know that obviously Hitler was in hell for quite a long period of time, so he definitely maybe crossed paths with the Santa Killers or people that had stories to tell about the Santa Killers. All right, so over in New Orleans, let's talk about the Children of Blood. Cassidy, has a change of heart and wants to hang out there a little bit longer, and he kind of follows through with Eccarius' idea of turning the willing into vampires.
Right, it actually seemed quite different from the comics in that Cassidy was more willing to embrace Eccarius' way of life.
Right.
Even looking at the weird coffin beds, which was a nice little nod to the comics when he kind of like ragged on him for it. But it was weird to actually see him give in and actually convert Lisa into a vampire.
Yeah, and then we quickly learned that maybe Eccarius is not exactly who he says he is. He definitely has different intentions than what we first thought of him.
Right, he made it seem like he was all about sending them out on these like mission trips to spread the goodness of vampires and try to make it a better place.
And safer for vampires, too.
Safer. But we found out very quickly that was not the case. He actually is not sending them to the airport at all. He's actually eating them or draining them.
So yeah, it was kind of confusing here, but I think what happens is that he turns them into a vampire, right? And then before they can get too strong and really defend themselves against him, he then kills them, getting all those powers that he's kind of been showing off to Cassidy.
Yeah, it seems like he's draining their blood to maybe acquire more vampire or vampiric abilities.
Yeah.
And then tosses their body in the sun so that way they die off before they can do anything.
And who knows how long he's been doing this for? I mean,
sounds
there was
like
a lot of
hundreds of years.
there were a lot of bodies it looked like in the ground there.
Yeah.
All right, let's quickly talk about the difference between the books and the show when it comes to Eccarius and Cassidy. Do you like the show better or more a fan of the source material?
I think I was more of a fan of the comics because the way it was presented, it was much more concise and to the point and really showed Cassidy's view on vampires and how quickly it all turned. However, given the way the show is set up, I thought the show did a fantastic job of setting it up the way they did, because if they were to go as quickly as the comics did, I don't know if we would have cared about Eccarius. I don't know if we would care about the relationship that he had with Cassidy.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was a good job of showing us what we believed to be the good side of Eccarius before kind of spinning it all around and showing, maybe he's not as good, and kind of actually showing Cassidy's now new foe.
Right, yeah. So the episode ends with, this budding bromance between these two, and it seems that Cassidy is going to have a change of heart and gonna learn the realities of Eccarius and what he's been doing at any point now. And that's bad news for Eccarius, basically.
Oh yeah, he's the one vampire that can rival him because he's developed his powers, unlike these fresh vampires they've been making and he's been consuming.
Now, a fun little moment when Eccarius and Cassidy are challenged by vampire hunters in the New Orleans area. There are Catholic vampire hunters, and they almost pull it off.
Yeah, they actually trapped him in that corner, and it seemed like they were done for. But Cassidy had a nice little immunity to tranquilizers.
This is the one time when being a drug addict comes in handy. Like, he actually was not affected by any of those tranquilizers, was able to use them against his captors, and then save Eccarius, who had already turned into a rat. So.
Right, which is a new power we hadn't seen before. It's also at this moment that Cassidy discovers that the Grail is actually after him as he spots Hoover in the corner.
Yeah, and he makes a mention that he wants to go help his friends out in Angelville, but that Eccarius kind of reels him back in and says, no, they're after us. A good thing to think about also in this moment is that later on we hear Tulip telling Jesse, hey, go check in on Cass. So I think there's an eventual reunion coming down the road here in New Orleans.
Yeah, it seems like sooner than later they're finally gonna be reunited.
Check on Cass while you're there.
I may not get a chance.
Check on him, Jesse. He's your best friend, and I'm worried about him.
Now, speaking of Angelville, the Grail returns to Grandma's place, and they want to make a kind of a new agreement between the two in order to get Jesse out of her grasp, but also give her something in return. And she makes it very clear off the jump that she needs souls.
She quite literally pissed on him.
Yeah.
So we find out here that the Grail actually owns Soul Happy Go-Go, and we're about to get a very interesting team up to go raid this vault in Japan.
I thought it was awesome to see Tulip, Jody, wearing the Grail outfits. It's a pretty cool team up. They don't want to fight alongside each other, but they kind of are forced to.
Yeah, all for one common goal, which is just to get the souls.
Now, if they don't get those souls, Grandma's made it really clear that she can kill Jesse and send him to hell. She even says one particular line that stood out to me when she talks about his mom.
Yeah, that seemed to confirm what we thought earlier, but the mom might be dead.
Otherwise, I'll tear you in half, suck out your soul, and send you to hell the way I did your mama.
So later on in this episode, we get another mention of Genesis. It sounds like the word is getting a little bit more popular and out there a little bit more. More people than just the Grail and Jesse know what this is.
Yeah, like we hear Tulip and Featherstone have a conversation that TC overhears, and now with his big mouth, kind of says it to Grandma.
And what was really significant about this part was that Grandma obviously was familiar with Genesis. It wasn't like the first time that she heard what it is. She definitely knows what it is, and we know there's a relationship between her and Hell, so she knows exactly the power here.
But the question is, does Grandma then loop in Satan or Mannering and actually fill them in that Genesis is in Jesse up here on Earth?
I think you're spot on with that, and if the previews are any indication, that we're definitely going to get more of that Satan-Angelville connection coming up here soon. So the episode ends with Herr, Starr bringing Jesse to the Grail headquarters. They had a little pinky promise there about what happens when he gets the power of God, voice of God back. And he says basically he'll give him Genesis, but there's a condition. Obviously, there's a catch.
Right, like he doesn't want to do any of these obscene acts that Jesse tried to do last time when he tried to give him the soul.
Right.
And so it's going to be interesting to see what Jesse does once he gets his powers back, but more specifically, how he gets out of this predicament of the Allfather.
Totally. So Herr Starr obviously wants Jesse to kill the Allfather, to help him kill the Allfather so he can take over the Grail. And it just seems like there's no easy way for Jesse to get this power back. There's so many obstacles and hula hoops, hoops he has to jump through in order to get this.
Jesse Custer as requested, sir.
Thrice blessed, O Custer.
Time now, guys, for us to talk about our favorite moments. Guys, what would you say is yours?
I actually really love the Herr, Starr, and Featherstone reaction. Like, we see how much Tulip loves Jesse and their whole interaction, and Featherstone almost felt jealous of what they had.
Totally.
And in the comics, Featherstone has a major crush on Herr Starr, and it doesn't quite work out the way she wants to, so it's kind of nice to see them finally delve into that, but to immediately see Herr Starr just shut her down completely when she's like, I'll call you. Why? I'll text you. Why?
Yeah.
Oh, I was dying of laughter just watching his completely blank expression, not understanding why she would even consider it.
I'll call you from the car.
Why?
Yeah, I'll text you from the plane.
Why?
I'll see you when the mission's done, sir.
I definitely love that moment, and mine's kind of in the same sequence of events when the Grail's in Angelville, and we kind of get these weird team-ups. When you hear TC talking to Herr Starr in the hallway, and you're like, this is just so outrageous, so weird. Like, these two characters are just, there's like no one else like them on Earth. And when you get to hear those conversations, I thought it was just, it was hysterical.
I was really hoping TC would pull off the hat.
It was made out of possum guts. You know, possum guts. It was stank to high heaven because I didn't cure the flesh. I didn't cure it right. The thing I love most about
Excuse me.
oh yeah, so you go right ahead.
Let's end on some questions we have moving forward. Number one, Eccarius, and what do you think his true intentions are? Does he have feelings for Cassidy, or does he ultimately just want to get Cassidy out of the picture?
I think he actually does want Cassidy out of the picture, but I don't think he's strong enough. I think he's seen how strong Cassidy is and how resilient of a vampire he is, and I think he needs to consume more of these vampire souls and become even stronger before he stands a chance against Cassidy.
Yeah, I totally agree. There was a moment where I was considering maybe that this entire time Cassidy was under his spell. Like it wasn't true like romantic sparks flying between the two, but it was more of he's exercising some other power, some glimmer that he has that even Cassidy can't fight back against.
Yeah, we've seen him use against normal human beings. Who's to say you can't use that on vampires too?
The bottom line is here that once Cassidy, if and when he does find out the truth, it's not going to end well for Eccarius.
Oh, not at all.
All right, how about the Saint of Killers, Eugene and Hitler? How do we think this is going to end? Do we think the Saint is going to follow through with his deal with Satan?
I mean, things have been going way too smoothly so far. Like,
Yeah,
even
I
how
agree.
quickly Eugene and Hitler just got captured or being taken back.
Totally agree.
I think it's just a matter of time before the Saint of Killers turns on Satan, or maybe has his own agenda at some point. Like, he could even use them as leverage for whatever he wants. And we know that the Saint of Killers and Satan kind of have a weird dynamic in the comics.
Yes.
So I'm curious to see whether that will actually play a factor in what's to come, or whether it simply is a smooth transaction and they just bring him back to hell, which, I don't know, feels kind of anticlimactic.
Yeah, totally. And then in the previews, we also see that the Angel of Death, Sydney, gets involved a little bit. I'm wondering who Satan would send her after, though. Jesse himself, maybe?
I mean, if Grandma does call Satan to let her know about Genesis, it very well could be Jesse.
Also in the preview for episode 8, things don't look too good for the Allfather, but I'm wondering if it might be too quick of an exit for him. He's an incredible character, obviously, in the comic books and here.
Right. I mean, unless they have no other plans for him, I feel like it's got to be a fake out. Like, there's no way he's already tapping out this early.
Totally agree with you. I think it's a little magic of these previews and these trailers they put together. They're just teasing and playing with us. I could not see them getting rid of Allfather this quickly. I think he'll be a bigger challenge for Herr Starr down the road here.
Right.
Guys, let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. And of course, next week, we'll be back for episode 8.
See you then.
See you guys.
On the next episode of AMC's Preacher.
Chris seriously robbed this bitch.
I wouldn't do that.
Alrighty then. Let's see how we're gonna do this.
Be a murdering piece of shit. I've got a job.
Your fun time is over.